We're going to talk about how to book podcasts with LinkedIn. So let's just talk for a minute about how important podcasts are today.
Welcome to the Making Sales Social podcast, featuring the top voices in sales, marketing, and business. Join Bryn Tillman, Stan Robinson Jr., and me, Bob Woods, as we each bring you the best tips and strategies our guests are teaching their clients so you can leverage them for your own virtual and social selling. Enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome to Making Sales Social on this Memorial Day. Before we jump into our topic, I just want to give my thanks for all of the families as we remember and honor the heroes who gave their lives to protect our freedom, our democracy, that fought for our Constitution. And I just want to make sure that I am just sharing how grateful I am to be able to live in this amazing country. So with that said, we're going to talk about how to book podcasts with LinkedIn. So let's just talk for a minute about how important podcasts are today. Podcasts are really where most people are getting both their entertainment and their education. Now, you say, well, not everyone is listening to a podcast, but podcasts are now on YouTube. They're shared on Spotify and Apple iTunes. And they're everywhere. And there are an enormous amount of people who are leveraging podcasts to start really great conversations, to attract buyers, to attract an audience of folks, and to expand your reach out in the world. Now, if you don't have your own podcast, that's okay. We do this live. And we do interviews, and we have 2 releases every single week of our podcast. And it has been a huge success for us, both in getting our voices heard and in building relationships with folks around, around conversations and their expertise that we then can share with our audience. But a lot of people don't have a podcast, but they have a lot to share. So if you are someone, even if you do have a podcast where you have a lot to share with the world, getting that conversation out there, getting your voice out there, your perspective by being interviewed is a great way to expand your network. So we're going to just talk briefly today about what that can look like alongside of LinkedIn and another tool that I love to use called Listen Notes. What I'm about to share, you can do in any podcast platform. You can look this up on Spotify. You can look up podcasts on iTunes, but I love Listen Notes for lots of reasons. The information that goes along with the podcast is very valuable. It's visual. You can see episodes, who's been interviewed on different podcasts, and it's very searchable. So for example, let's say you sell telecommunications. You can find all the podcasts by actual podcast or by episodes simply by searching telecommunications or telephone systems or VoIP or whatever those keywords are. You're going to now find podcasts that highlight that topic. Well, that's great, right? What do we do when we find that? Well, on Listen Notes, you can actually listen to different podcasts. You can search other guests that they've had. You can easily see the names of the hosts, and sometimes it actually will even link back to some of their other social media. But here is the thing that I think is really important, is once we've identified who they are, we can now go into LinkedIn and find them. Often the podcast is listed, so if they have a common name, you can search their name plus the name of the podcast, and you'll get to their profile. So now I hope at this point you've listened to a couple of these, right? If you're going to vet whether or not it's right for you. And then you can reach out to them first by saying, hey, I listened to your, 2 of your episodes with Jane and with Fred, and I really enjoyed them. If you're open, I'd love to connect and continue to follow your content. Now, if you've been on any other podcasts with that same topic, that can be your welcome message. Thanks so much for connecting. I'm not sure if you listen to other telecommunication podcasts, but I was recently a guest on one on this topic. If you're interested, I'd love to share that with you. Let me know. Ask permission and you can share that with them. You will also share topics over time. So when you connect with someone for the first 2 weeks, they're likely to see your content. So if you are now consistently sharing tips and strategies, that's a great way for them to get to know you, and they can kind of vet you in the background. If they do listen to you, the podcast that you send them, there's a likelihood that they may reach out and ask if you were interested in being a guest. Now, we can ask, but not right away. We need to earn the right to be that guest. So by sharing content with them and, even getting that podcast in front of them, you can start to earn the right to get asked to be a guest. Now, if you've had a conversation back and forth for a little bit, you can say, hey, I've been a guest on a few podcasts on this topic. If you're ever interested, I'd love to throw my hat in the ring, right? There are a lot of podcast hosts that are often looking for guests. So, even if it's not right away, it may be down the line. Often if I do this, I'll actually get a link to schedule a time to either get vetted for that podcast or even just book because they've looked at my profile and some of my content and decided, oh yeah, she would be a good guest. So now let's go back to the profile piece because that's really important. If in fact you've been a guest on a few podcasts, you can actually add that to your headline if you're actively seeking podcasts. You can add a few into your featured section. You can even add that, as in a position, you could say podcast guest. So you want to make sure that your profile is supporting the fact that you are this podcast guest. There are so many different ways to engage, but one of the best things you can do is connect with those hosts and start conversations and engage with them. It can bring such an amazing opportunity, a conversation that can start a lot of really great opportunities for you. Make sure you're leveraging LinkedIn Live because that will be part of what they're vetting. Go YouTube Live, right? Like share that YouTube. The last thing I'm going to talk about today, and I know it's a little bit shorter version today on our Memorial Day, but is have either a one-pager, like a media kit or a media page, along with a page on your website. So we have a page, like if you went to socialsaleslink.com/Bryn and you click on media kit, you'll see, I think are my top 8 podcasts that they can click through, and it does go to listen notes. There's a link to see, I think I have over 340 episodes at this point. They can link through, and that will go to all my episodes on listen notes. One of the reasons I love to do that, not just my podcast, but every podcast that my name has been mentioned will be listed in that link. So if I'm on a new one, it's automatically listed. I don't have to update anything. I have 5 or 6 topics that I talk on. I have sort of an intro for folks. I have headshots there, and I can actually lead people there. You can add that into your featured section if you'd like. You can add a link inside of your podcast guest position on LinkedIn. You can add a link to that page, your media kit page, and this will start to give you some credibility along the way. if you don't have a lot of podcast guesting spots, start to do these LinkedIn Lives, whether it's with you or with someone inside of your organization or a networking partner, so that they get to see the content that you're offering that's out there. So you may not have been a guest yet, but you can actually position it where you have someone in your network interview you on a live. Go live on YouTube, go live on LinkedIn. Obviously, you can do Instagram and all the other TikTok and Facebook, right? And you can link that in your media kit or on your LinkedIn profile, and that will start to give you credibility. The other thing, I said that was the last thing, but I thought of something else, and it's a little out of order. But when you've identified some of those podcasts that you'd like to be on, also publicly share them first, even before you reach out and connect with those folks. Say, listen to it, publicly share it, mention the person, mention the podcast if they have a page, if they have on LinkedIn, even if they don't, just say on the name of the podcast, link it back to that episode. You can even link or mention other folks that are interviewed, and just talk about some of your major takeaways from there. Then have a call to action so that there's some engagement on that. List your favorite podcast or list a podcast that you've listened to in the last couple of weeks that can add real value to your network or that adds real value to you. And now you can start to reach out and ask people for them to start commenting on that. You're bringing attention to that podcast. The host sees that you're active, that you've got an active audience, and they're more likely to want to have you on as a guest, because not only are you going to bring good content to the table, but you're also going to expand their audience as well. So there's lots of reasons to do podcasts, lots of reasons to leverage LinkedIn to start to build that credibility and those connections, and ultimately expand your reach, and it really can make a big difference. So I thank you so much for joining me. If you're live today on this Memorial Day, if you're listening to this on replay or on podcast, I hope you're having a fabulous summer, because we certainly are here at Social Sales Link. And if you do book yourself on some podcasts, please send them our way. We would love to help you promote them. Thanks so much. And when you guys are out and about, don't forget to make your sales so.
Don't miss an episode. Visit socialsaleslink.com/podcast. Leave a review down below. Tell us what you think, what you learned, and what you want to hear from us next. Register for free resources at linkedinlibrary.com. You can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google Play. Visit our website, socialsaleslink.com, for more information.